Oh, the meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. Is that correct, Clark, or are we still moving across?
It's just in the process of live streaming.
Thank you. Thank you, Locum Clark.
Right, it should be doing it now.
Okay, so welcome. Welcome to Wincanton Town Council's full council meeting on the 7th of December, being recorded on Zoom and live streamed on YouTube. So it is now 19:02 and we will move into the first part of the agenda. But before I do so, we are expecting a councillor to join late. So our locum clerk would allow that person in. And before we move into the next part of the agenda, I just want to check if councillors could raise a hand to say if they received papers tonight. So the papers for full council. So I have Councillor Waters, Power, Smith, Ralph, Tudgay, Vag, myself, Councillor Shelbourne-Barry. So thank you for that. We are in fact quorate. So I'm now moving into public participation. And I just would like to remind members of the public that council are here to receive questions from members of the public, but not for members of the public not to verbally abuse or harass members of council during that period. And at the end of the 3 minutes per person, we will then close public participation and move into the formal agenda. So we have, I can see, 2 members of the public on our call today. Are you both wishing to speak, Mr. Allard and Emma Parnell? So Emma, can I invite you first to speak, please?
Thank you very much. During the last council meeting, funds were allocated to hampers for the over 70s and for also vulnerable families. I wasn't sure if that was going to include stuff for a Christmas dinner. So I myself went to the Balsam Centre, Wincanton Food Bank and the 2 primary schools and got an estimate of vulnerable families who may struggle to have a Christmas dinner. Our community raised £566 via GoFund, and in total that's £620. We only raised for 450, so we actually went over target. So I thank everybody who donated, and I'm aware that some council members also donated, so thank you very much. With the over 70s, I couldn't do anything because of portion sizes, and not only that, I wasn't aware if some of them would be able to cook a Christmas dinner for themselves. So I was wondering if it was possible if council could enlist some volunteers to maybe drop off a Christmas dinner to a vulnerable over 70s or someone who may be lonely. It can be done in a COVID secure way. If we put it in Tupperware, put it in a bag, drop it at the doorstep, say a quick hello, we can have a 5-minute chat, socially distanced, and it can be reheated. And I don't know if that's something that's possible. I understand that there'll be problems with sort of data security, with obviously people giving out addresses, but if an over 70, if the council know of an over 70 who may like to do that, with their agreement, could some members of the community feed their neighbour on Christmas Day?
Okay, so just to clarify, from what I've heard, Emma, and please feel free to make sure that I've got it right. So you're looking for volunteers to help deliver.
Yep.
And you're looking for support, another element of support. Sorry, I didn't quite capture
that. With a Christmas dinner, everybody always cooks more than what they need. So we will have spare. So if we have spare, we could put it in a Tupperware box, drop it round to an over 70s who may be having like a Wiltshire farm food, which is a frozen meal. Instead, we deliver a nice Christmas dinner, do it socially distanced. One, they're getting support from the community, they're not going to feel lonely, and they're going to be included. So there's that. And if residents can do that and they're willing to do that, could the council possibly put forward some names to us and allocate us a person to drop that off to, and other people volunteer to do that?
Okay, thank you for clarifying your 2 points. What I would actually say to you tonight, Emma, is we will note what you've asked, and we as a council working with our clerk will come up with a response and contact you back. Is that okay?
That's fine. Thank you very much.
So I appreciate your time, Emma. Thank you very much.
No
And
Thank you.
thank you for what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Ralph.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to take this opportunity to commend Emma for all her efforts on behalf of our community. It doesn't go unnoticed, so thank you, Emma.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Many thanks. And now, Mr. Allard, would you like to speak this month?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Yeah. I have 2 questions to ask you. Both of them are to do with the proper financial management of the town council's affairs. I note that at item 7 on your agenda, you intend to discuss the AGAR, and you intend, I presume, to approve sections 1 and 2. I wondered where in the process you anticipate the exercise of public rights will be. That is the right of the elector to examine your accounts and examine your AGAR. I do intend to do that. Appreciate I may not be able to do it in your office, but it's entirely feasible for me to do it remotely. Should you make that available, I believe that is my right so to do. I'd just like to understand what you intend to do about that. And then secondly, and possibly more importantly, I would have anticipated by this time in the year, you would have entered the precept preparation process. Certainly in the past, you would have probably had 2, if not 3 meetings by now to discuss that. I'm not aware that you have any agendaized. You certainly have nothing on this agenda. And I believe your next scheduled meeting is not till January, which I find a little surprising if you're going to go through a process of setting a precept. And I would like to understand what you intend to do about that, please.
Thank you. So on this occasion, and unless the locum clerk wishes to respond, I think we'll note your comments. The AGAR we will cover, I believe, on section 7. And the subsequent question you've posed, I think we will be responding to in meeting dates. So, but we will clarify further following this meeting at our next meeting. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
So the public participation is now closed. Please can I ask then that we move to apologies, and I'm aware that we have one apology tonight and one potential individual joining us late. So firstly, Councillor Thomas has sent his apologies, and Councillor Greening has said he's likely to be late tonight to the meeting. So we'll note those. Can I then move to declarations of interest? This is where members to declare any interest they may have in the agenda items that accord with the requirements of the Council Code of Conduct. Can I ask councillors, having received the minutes and papers for this meeting, if you have any declarations you wish to make at this time? No, thank you. I see no one raising a hand. So moving on, we now move to the minutes of the previous meeting. Now, as councillors will be aware, we have 2 minutes to approve tonight, and the first minutes being the 9th of November. So can I ask firstly, do you have any comments for 0046, 0047, 0048? Sorry, my fingers are not moving. 0049 and 0050. So for the 9th of November, do you have any comments or amendments? No one's making any gesture to make any amendments. So can I therefore have for the 9th of November, a proposer, please, for the minutes? Councillor Vagg, a seconder. Councillor Smith, and a vote from the floor, please. If you're for the minutes, I have Councillor Waters, Power, Smith, Ralph, Tudgate, Vagg, and Shelbourne Barrow. So I believe that to be unanimous. Can you confirm that, locum clerk? Thank you. The next minutes of the meeting date dated the 23rd of November. So can I ask for any views on page 0051, 0052, 0053, 0054, 0055, 0056. Are there any amendments or comments in relation to the minutes of the 23rd of November? I see no one raising a hand, so can I therefore ask for a proposer for the minutes of the 23rd? Councillor Tudgay. Can I ask for a seconder? Councillor Power. And can I therefore ask for a vote, those for the minutes? So I will start with Councillor Waters, Councillor Power, Councillor Smith, Ralph, Tudgay, Vag and Shelbourne Barrow. Thank you. I believe that to be unanimous. Is that correct, Locum Clerk? Now, we also have actions that came from that meeting. Do you wish to cover those now, Locum Clerk? Thank you. So from the 23rd, we have a number of actions. One was in response to public participation, questions raised, which we will cover in the main agenda. The one about local business support is in our main agenda tonight. Festive box working group, I can give you an update on that. So as a council, we've set up a working group working with our local charities and organisations and schools and churches, and started to identify the numbers associated with those that potentially are designated as in need or in hardship. But we don't have names because of data protections. That stays with the organisation that's identified them. However, we will do a process to identify that we aren't duplicating at a given point, but that will be with organisations that have data GDPR in terms of data protection, so that we don't breach that as an organisation. So that will be staff that undertake that task. So that is moving forward, and at the last count we had about 76 past named individuals coming forward in terms of numbers. And in addition to that, we've asked the clerk to put a drop box in to collect items, and also the Balsam Centre is collecting items, and we're looking to receive items also from Morrison. So we are collating a range of different items, both food and other, to act as to make up these festive boxes. And once we have more, we will share more. But that's broadly where we are at this time. Is everyone happy with that as an update? Thank you. Next item, which is to advertise the youth outreach. It's not a post, it's a project. So that's just an error in terms of how it's been identified. As you're aware, we've approved a 3-month engagement with Youth Somerset, Young Somerset, sorry, and that we are now agreeing a date to start and what that focused agenda will look at in terms of engagement with our young people or under 25s, the location, and what that will capture in terms of us as a town council being formed of the areas of interest of our young people in the town and what they'd like to see in their contribution to our community. So once we have a formal start date, we will communicate that with council and residents, and a comms plan, a communications plan to promote that on social media and other, working with schools and other interested parties like the Balsam Centre and the churches to ensure that everyone is fully aware of what is available and the additional aspects of it that are coming online as well. In terms of writing to the award recipients, that has been completed and also communicated out through Wincanton Town Council's Facebook page. So we're very proud to have had so many recipients this year, and also to be able to, in due course, present those awards to our residents and the group that was awarded, hopefully early next year, but if not, we will do it as soon as practically possible. And the items on the agenda for tonight's meeting have been included, so I won't go into any further. Are there any comments on the actions? No, thank you, councillors. Right, moving on to the item, if I find my agenda. Items on the agenda. We now move into responses to the public, and this is where we were posed questions in our last full council meeting on the 23rd of November. We have taken we've taken a view in terms of council taking advice from the most appropriate people, and now have a response, and I would invite our locum clerk to respond.
Okay, so there were 2 questions at the last meeting that required an answer. One was relating to councillor expenses, and the person that posed the question referred to legal topic note 33. In fact, legal topic note 33 refers to council allowances rather than expenses. So town and parish councils are entitled to pay their councillors an allowance if they wish. Very few do, but some do. And it was the case that before 2004, some co-opted members weren't entitled to an allowance, but that has since changed. It's not really relevant to Wincanton because you don't pay your councillors an allowance anyway.
No.
So hopefully that will answer that question. And the second question related to VAT, the treatment of VAT on the community fridge. The community fridge is remaining in the ownership of the town council, although it's not going to be in the town hall or anything. It's going to be in the ownership of the town council. It'll be on our asset register and on our insurance. So reclaiming the VAT on that is perfectly valid thing to do.
Thank you for that, locum clerk. So I'm not going to oops, someone's just left the meeting. I'm just trying to work out who that is. Councillor Tudgay has just left the meeting.
He's probably fallen out. If you hold on a minute, he'll try and get back in it. Try and get back in, I expect.
Yes. Okay. So,
Chair, sorry, there's several cuts, I think, across the town. So
yes.
Councillor Tudgay's disappeared.
It may well be. Okay. So, if I may then, Councillor Tudgay was actually leading on planning tonight. So in the event that he may well rejoin us, what I'd like to do is call a motion to move planning further down the agenda. So in the event that Councillor Tudgay is able to return to our meeting, and if not, I will respond to planning. But he was planning to lead on planning tonight. That's a little sorry about that. So can I have a proposer and a seconder if you're in agreement to move it down the agenda? So proposer is Councillor Smith, a seconder is Councillor Power, and a vote to move it down the agenda to after Save the Climate. So I have Councillor Waters, Power, Smith, Bag, Shelbourne-Barrow and Ralph. So thank you for that. If you could just remind me if I don't pick it up again when we get to that point. And I'll keep an eye on my phone because he may well ring if he's definitely got a problem. So I'm moving that to 15 and therefore 15 now becomes 16. Okay, so thank you for that. So now moving on to the checklist, which is point, wherever the checklist becomes, 5.
Just leave them as the same numbers and I'll just move 5 to the bottom.
Okay, as long as you're happy with that. So yeah. Checklist. Colleagues, you would have received the checks for December. Can I first ask, are there any comments in relation to the checklist? Yes, locum clerk.
When we spoke earlier, you said somebody was concerned because £64.90 seemed to be a lot for a wheel balance. In fact, it was actually a completely new tyre and the wheel balance was part of it. But the way the invoice was written, obviously Muriel's just homed in on wheel balance. It's actually a whole new tyre and all the bits that go with it. So.
Okay, thank you. I'd also like to make people aware the 24-hour time for the Christmas trees is for our town council Christmas trees, the ones on the side of the building, so that they're only on they're turned off at 11 p.m. and come back on at 11 a.m. And the rationale for that is, firstly, there's something about fire safety, because we shouldn't have something on running when no one's in the building for most of the time. Secondly, there's something about climate change and using energy that actually no one will really see at that time of night. Thirdly, there's something about the residents that live opposite the 3 trees. That light goes directly into their living accommodation, potentially their bedrooms. So we're thinking about our residents and actually whether that's appropriate. And I'm not clear at the minute whether our trees are LED and use very little energy during the time they are on. So this will be a benefit to the climate and a benefit to our organisation's bank balance. So that's the rationale for that one. Any other comments? No. So if there are no further comments, can I then therefore ask for a proposer, please, for the checklist for the December 2020? Councillor Ralph, a seconder. Councillor Waters, and a vote if you're for the checklist. So I have Councillor Waters, Power, Smith, Ralph, Vag, and Shelbourne Barrow. So I believe that to be unanimous. And in addition, I just want to confirm that we are quorate, even though Councillor Tudgay has left the meeting. And hopefully no more power cuts hit any of us during the meeting. Otherwise, we are going to be in a problem. We'll have to stop. So can I therefore ask for 2 nominated people to come forward to sign cheques this week? So Councillor Vag and Councillor Waters. Thank you. I appreciate that. Are you happy with that, Locum Clerk? Thank you. So moving on, we now move to AGAR. So annual governance and accountability return. And as council and those who are watching on YouTube will be aware, we've been discussing AGAR on a frequent basis, at least once a month for some months now, as we've talked about requiring extensions to undertake a review of AGAR because there were discrepancies in figures. And tonight we're going to review a report that our Locum Clerk will read, and then pointing out the key points that we should be aware of, and then going into once, if Council agree to approve Section 1 AGAR and Section 2. So can I therefore ask for our Locum Clerk to commence with A, please, to receive the report from the Internal Auditor.
I'm just going to let Zach in, Councillor.
Thank you. So that's 1924. Zach's come in. Councillor Greening's come in. Sorry. Thank you. Councillor Greening, are you connected? Excellent. So we are now on, we've moved planning, point 5, further down the agenda because Councillor Tudgay was speaking to it, and unfortunately he's left the meeting, which we're hoping isn't a power cut, but we're discussing it further on in the meeting. And we're now looking at annual governance and accountability return. So you know where we are on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, so it's actually not a report from the Internal Auditor, it's a report that I wrote.
Thank you for clarifying.
And hopefully you've had a chance. Yeah, hopefully you've had a chance to read it. I just wanted, rather than just going in with the figures, because I know there is a bit of a feeling that you might not fully understand the process. I wanted just to, obviously I've given you an introduction, and then at point 2 in my report, I've just given you a slight overview of what should happen with the AGAR. And then I've moved into number 3, point 3 in my report, which refers to section 1 of the AGAR. Section 1 and section 2 have to be dealt with at a full council meeting with 2 separate agenda item numbers. That's a recent thing that's been brought in. Now, in an ideal world, we'd be able to say yes to all of the statements apart from the bottom one because of the, not having any trusts, we don't think at the moment. But unfortunately, I've recommended that you have to say no to question 1 because you haven't been doing regular bank reconciliations and having budget reports and so on. but that's okay because well, not okay, but we can say the actions that we're taking now to put that right in the future. So you're getting some proper sector-specific accounting software, and everything will be in place for the coming year. And also, as the member of the public who's left now mentioned, there's a specific window of time during which you're supposed to give the electorate the opportunity to look at all your finances, the AGAR and any other supporting documents, as long as there's nothing personal in it to do with salaries and so on. And you weren't able to do that in the window that was given. It has to include the first 10 days of July. It has to be 30 days, and it must include the first 10 days of July, either side of that. Because of all the problems you've had, that's not been possible. So what I'll do, it's a shame he's gone actually, because he would have got the answer to his question. What I'll do is from Thursday onwards, I will make everything available. So I can't make it available tomorrow because I'm not working for you tomorrow. I'll be working for you on Wednesday, so there's a special notice I'll have to put up, and when I put it up on Wednesday can't count as one of the days. Oh, Councillor Tudgay is coming back. Okay.
Councillor Tudgay, we're on AGAR, and our locum clerk is talking about the report.
Okay, sorry, I've lost the connection. I've had to switch to a different machine. I don't quite know what's gone on.
Okay, thank you anyway. Appreciate you coming back.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think you can say yes to all the remaining questions on section 1 of the AGAR. So then I get to the figures, which will go into section 2. So the problem that we had was we couldn't make the figures balance with the bank reconciliation. And this is one of the main reasons why I wanted you to get sector-specific accounting software, because if you put all the data and the payments and the receipts and everything into the software in the right way in the first place, it will automatically generate your AGAR figures in the right boxes. So the problem you had was that, one, the VAT data has not been treated correctly going back at least 2 years that we know of. So that's been corrected now. And also the value of unreconciled checks was put in the wrong box. So when I've completed the AGAR figures, as you'll see on the next page, we've had to restate the figures from last year to take account of errors that happened in previous years. And the VAT debtor error and the unreconciled check error, because it's been repeated, the same error has been repeated over the years, it hasn't shown up. And if those errors have been repeated this year, they still wouldn't have shown up. The only reason they have shown up now is because somebody else has looked at the figures and noticed that those errors have taken place. So section 4 really is just to explain to you what the differences are between the 2019 figures that were actually submitted and the 2019 figures that I'm going to submit as restated figures. So if anyone has any questions at any time, just jump in and stop me. Otherwise, I'll move on. Councillor Greening's got a question.
Yeah, so you mentioned that there's a chance that it may go back several years. Why was it that an internal auditor or even the external auditor wouldn't have brought that up back then?
Well, the external auditor would accept the figures that are presented, because in fact, when you present the figures, when the figures were presented in the previous AGARs, they're done in such a way that they seem to be correct, and that's because they've gone on year. I can't answer why an internal auditor wouldn't pick them up. That would be my guess, and that's why I picked the internal auditor that I did, the third one that you had, because I knew that he would pick it up straight away because he's so experienced. So perhaps it's just that you needed a different internal auditor in years gone by. I don't know who that person was, so I can't really comment. Okay, so should I move on?
Yes, please. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So section 5 in my report shows you the figures that have now, the correct figures that are now going to be submitted on section 2 of the AGAR. Hopefully they're quite self-explanatory. And then I've gone on to show you in section 6 the bank reconciliation, the correct bank reconciliation up to the end of March 2020. And if you compare section 5 and section 6 of my reports, you'll see that in box 8 of the right-hand column of figures, you've got total value of cash and short-term investments, 83,998. And that now matches with the bank reconciliation on section 6 of my report, except for 1p, but we're allowed to round up for a few pennies, so that's fine. And that's where we were having the problem before. We couldn't make that figure match with the figure in box 8. Okay, so I'm going to move on. So because you run on an income and expenditure basis rather than receipts and payments, you have to do end of year journals or for various things. So this year you have to do an explanation as to why there's a difference between boxes 7 and 8. If you want receipts and payments, boxes 7 and 8 would always be the same, but because you've got debtors and creditors, there's a difference, and you have to explain why you've got that difference. So this year the reason is that you've got a VAT debtor, so that's VAT owing to you by HMRC of £18,072. So box 7 is £102,070. If you add to that, take from that rather the £18,072 VAT debtor, that brings you to £83,998, which matches bank reconciliation apart from 1p, which matches box 8 of section 2 of the AGAR. Is that okay?
Yes.
Shall I move on? Yep. Okay. So another thing that I would have to submit with your AGAR is an explanation of significant variances. So you'll see in section 8 of my report that there's a comparison between 2018-19, 2019-20, and it calculates the spreadsheets where there's a percentage difference. And if it's 15% or more, you have to give an explanation. And luckily for me, it was quite easy for me to identify. Oftentimes when you come to a new council, you have to unpick a lot of things, but you've just got a great big new skate park. So obviously you had a lot of more money coming in last financial year because you had grants and the loan and everything to pay for the skate park. And equally, you bought a skate park, so that's why you spent a lot more money than you would have done normally. The reason you had more total fixed assets is because you have a skate park, and the reason you've got more borrowings is because you borrowed money for a skate park. So it all kind of follows through quite nicely, I'm relieved to say. So there's that. So that brings me to the end of the report, and my recommendation is that you approve the governance statements in section 1 and the figures in section 2, but you can come to that as you go forward to B and C on the agenda. So does anyone have any questions about any of that?
Councillor Ralph?
It's more of a comment, but I just wanted to say that thank you for this commentary. You know, this is my first AGAR and I'm still learning, and it was so helpful. And I just, to add to that, wanted to say, you know, as a format for things related to accounting and other, you know, aspects of the council's work, I think this is a great example of how we, you know, could be helping councillors with these things going forward. I don't wish to create more work, obviously, for the clerking team, but
no, but I mean, because once you've done this report 1 year, you can almost rehash the format for coming years, can't you?
So, you know, thank you very much. It probably makes me quite sad, but I really enjoyed reading it. So,
oh, thank you very much.
Councillor Vag.
I won't make any comment about Lizzie being sad. Sorry, that wasn't what I was going to say. So just for clarity's sake, there's been no money has gone astray. It's just things have been put in wrong boxes. That's it.
Exactly. That's precisely it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Vag. Any other comments from council? I think from my perspective, I'm going to speak as the journey we've been on for council in terms of understanding our AGAR getting the right people to do the process in terms of internal auditors and extremely experienced internal auditors to actually find where the discrepancies lay. So we as a council are thankful for the work that the locum clerk has undertaken to actually complete that task, working with the individual that's leading on our accounts in terms of the budget management, identifying some of the money, and also the fact that it's led us to a place where we can now make SALC and the external auditors aware, subject to approving B and C, that we have got to the bottom of it. We've done our due diligence as council, supported by staff, to get to this position today. So thank you for that. In terms of the next point on the agenda, which is B, locum clerk, can you actually outline how you would like us to proceed now?
Yeah. So, sorry, just get to the right page. So all these statements that are on section 1, we've put in place arrangements for effective financial management. We maintain an adequate system of internal control. If you could just, Sue, ask everybody to confirm that they've read and understood all those to start with. I mean, you could read them all out, but it's a little bit dry, especially for a live stream. As long as everyone's read and understood them and they can confirm that, that's fine. And then afterwards, you need to get a proposer and a seconder to vote on approving the responses as they show on section 1 of the AGAR.
And then we'll move to section 2. So
Yeah.
Following the advice from the locum clerk, can I ask council to raise your hand if you've all reviewed the AGAR section 1 and the report to date? So if you've read it all and understood it and are able to sign it off tonight. So I have Councillor Tudgay, Greening, Waters, Power, Smith, Ralph, Bagg and Shelbourne-Barrow, confirming we've read it and understood and are able to sign that off tonight. And Waters, did I say you, Linda?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, it's just your hand's still up. So sorry, I apologise. Councillor Ralph. Oh no, your hand was still up. You were just keeping it there. Okay, fine, thank you. I believe it's unanimous. Do you agree with that, locum clerk?
Yes.
Thank you. So can I first then have a proposer in support of section 1 of the AGAR? Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Ralph. A seconder, Councillor Smith. Is that sufficient, or do we need to vote again?
Vote.
And a vote for. A vote for. So for Councillor Tudgay, Greening, Waters, Power, Smith, Ralph, Vag and Shelbourne-Barrow. Thank you for that. I presume we follow with the next section. Do you need now to introduce that, please? Section 2?
Well, I would do normally, but I think I have just pretty much covered it in the summary of my report, unless anybody's got any further questions about the figures. No. So if that's the case, then really it's just to propose a proposer and seconder and then a vote on approving those figures. Bear in mind that 2019 is restated and the 2021s are the new ones for this year just gone.
Thank you. So can I have a proposer, please, following the fact that we've all agreed we've read the statements and the report. So a proposer is Councillor Tudgay, a seconder is Councillor Vag, and for section 2 of AGAR, please. So I have Councillor Tudgay, Greening, Waters, Power, Smith, Ralph, Vag and Shelbourne-Barrow. I believe that to be unanimous.
Yes.
Thank you. So the next steps, as I understand it, locum clerk, is, do you want to outline what happens next, please?
Yeah, so next, when I'm next in the office on Wednesday, oh, by the way, I've already emailed the external auditor to make them aware of our schedule from now on. So when I'm in the office on Wednesday, I will email the external auditor with the AGAR document that we've just signed off, with the bank reconciliation, the variance between boxes 7 and 8, the explanation of significant variances, and an explanation as to why you've answered no to 2 of the questions on section 1 of the AGAR. And then we wait to hear from them as to when they've signed it off. Alongside that, I will also make the exercise of public rights available from Thursday onwards. And I'll make anything available to anyone digitally, because we obviously don't want members of the public coming into the office because of the pandemic. So yeah, and then all we have to do is wait and hopefully, hear that the figures have been signed off.
Thank you. So is an e-signatory for myself as chairman sufficient, or shall I sign it formally?
I think you need to wet sign it, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So if I come into the office when I know you're in the office,
Yeah.
I will then complete that task for you. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, good news, everyone. I think we're all feeling very positive about completing that task. So moving on now to the finance report. So this is to note the monthly account against budget for October 2020 and grant expenditure for October 2020. So councillors, have you reviewed and do you have any comments associated with, firstly, the monthly account against budget for October? Any questions? No, thank you. And in terms of the grant expenditure, do we have any comments associated with that at this time? No. Locum Clerk, is there anything you wish to say against the grant applications?
Only to say that you'll all be aware that I've had an email and telephone conversation with Wincanton something trust. What's it called?
Sports Ground, Wincanton
Yeah.
Sports Ground, but the new title of that.
The new organisation that's now running the sports ground and the sports centre in place of the previous organisation. Because as you'll know, there's £5,000 outstanding on a grants application from Wincanton Sports Ground Management Company Limited, which they now can't have because it's the organisation is no longer in existence. So we can't give a grant to an organisation that no longer exists. So the new trust is going to send in a grant application form with all the supporting documents in order to access that remaining £5,000, which will be brought before you for your consideration as and when it's received.
Thank you. Any comments? If not, we'll move on because this is just a note. Yes, Councillor Vagg.
As we've previously earmarked this money for this purpose, if it's now the charity that has to submit the grant application, do they have to wait for it, or can we pay it kind of when that's done?
Yeah, assuming once you've reviewed the application form and the supporting documents that you're happy that the organisation is legitimate and you've done your due diligence, then yes, the money's there and you can just allocate it to that. I mean, it's the same. It's going to benefit the same people, isn't it? It's just a really an admin exercise to make sure the money goes to an organisation that exists rather than one that doesn't.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Greening.
Is there a disparity then between the trust and the management company? Because if we've given £5,000 to the management company and now they've been disbanded, does that, I don't even know the right word, I want to say contravene the original grant?
Well, that's what the management company limited ceased to exist at the end of November, I'm going to say.
Have they been liquidated then?
I don't know what the situation is. All I know is that they are no longer going to be running the sports grounds, and so that the organisation, the trust that is going to be running the sports ground, if they want access to the remaining 5,000, must fill in another grant application so that we have sight of their accounts and their bank statements to make sure they're operating properly. The trust itself owns the sports ground and the sports centre. So I understand it. I expect you probably know that already, but I only found all that out today.
Right.
Okay, Councillor Greening.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions, we'll move on. We're now moving on to the community office lighting. So you would have seen there are 3 quotes that have been captured on items, what was item 9, to actually review. They're quotes, not tenders, because tenders is the wrong word for what this is. This is quotes for work. And those 3 quotes, can I ask you, Locum Clerk, to speak to this, please?
Yeah, so you've got 3 quotes here. The biggest one is from Mainstone, which is, oh, they're all comparable, by the way. I mean, it's a very small piece of work. It's just replacing some lighting in the office with 4 6-foot LED battens and replacing 6 spotlights with LED lamps and fitting them to existing track over the windows. So yes, Mainstones are quoted 613.56, and then you've got who's this person? Oh no, they're not the most expensive. This one's the most expensive. This is JD Electricals. They're £786.60 for exactly the same thing. And then you've got Clifford T. Sheen, who I saw today has done work for you before, and he's come in at 520. And it's quite a simple job, I think. It's down to you to choose whichever one you think you would like.
Colleagues, do you have any questions or comments? Councillor Ralph.
Just a question either to the chair or anyone that could answer it. Are these all local contractors to our town?
Clifford T. Sheen is Gillingham.
Mainstones is Bruton.
Yeah, Mainstones is Bruton. JD is Wincanton. So JD's the most expensive. They're Wincanton. Mainstones is Bruton. They're the second most expensive. And the third one, Clifford Sheen, is Gillingham, who's the least expensive.
I'd like to see us, driving the local economy where we can with these things. So.
Thank you. Councillor Power.
That's probably a stupid question. Because I'm actually related to the Mainstones, because it's on my mum's side, would I be able to vote, or do I have to declare an interest on that one?
You should declare a personal interest, but you can still vote. If they got the job, would you benefit?
No. It's just doesn't look like I'm boosting their business, if you see what I mean.
Thank you, Councillor Power. Do we need to note that anywhere, Locum Clerk?
I'll just note that Councillor Power has declared a personal interest.
I don't get any. I'm nothing to do with the business, but it's part of my family, if you see what I mean.
Yes, you were right to declare it, and what I've heard from the Locum Clerk is you can still vote, but you've declared it because you don't get you have no monetary interest in that quote and that delivery of that service if they're chosen, of course. So in terms of the 3, yes, Councillor Tudgay.
Sorry, I missed, my internet's playing up here very badly tonight. I missed what the clerk said about the 3 quotes. Is it possible she could just briefly recap for my benefit?
What about where they're from?
No, I missed completely from the beginning of the
right, okay. So the work that is to be done is to replace lighting in council office with 4 LED battens and replace 6 spotlights with LED lamps and fit them to the existing track over the windows. So all the quotes are comparable in that respect. They're all quoting the same thing.
Thank you.
And the most expensive one is JD Electrical Wincanton. Then it's Mainstone Brute, and then it's Clifford Sheen. Gillingham.
Another question, please, if I may. Have they given any indication as to how soon they could carry out this work?
No, that hasn't been asked, but
that hasn't been asked.
No.
Because obviously that would have some bearing in my mind on who we choose. Obviously, this work is very important, long overdue, and really, it would be no good appointing a contractor who couldn't do it, until say next April or something.
Okay, so taking that on board, we now have three quotes to do the same piece of work. In terms of recognising Councillor Ralph's comment about trying to, wherever possible, go local, we also have the responsibility for the spend of public money. So we need to balance it. It's a balance between supporting local businesses, but also getting the best out of the funds that we have available within the public purse. So Locum Clark, do you want us to vote individually, or how do you want us to select the quote?
Just as an aside, the difference between the most expensive quote and the cheapest quote is £266.60.
Okay.
So I'll just put that in there so that you're aware. And really, somebody needs to nominate one of them, and then somebody needs to second that one, and then you need to vote on it. Or someone nominates and they don't get a second, and we move on and through them until it's a bit like when you do a watch and, you know, pick somebody.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So let's start with one. Do I have a proposer for JD Electrical Contractors? I have no one putting a hand up. Do I have?
Where are they? Which one is that?
That's the Wincanton one, who are charging 700. Oh, yeah. JD 786.60.
Okay. Next one is Clifford T. Sheen, number 2. Do I have a proposer for Clifford Sheen? I have a proposer, which is Councillor Vagg, and a seconder, which is Councillor Smith. And do you wish us to vote now, Locum Clark?
Yeah, you've got a proposer and a seconder, so you can vote on that.
Okay, so if you're for number 2 at Clifford T. Sheen, £520, can I ask that you raise your hand now for a 4? So I have Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Greening, Councillor Waters, Councillor Smith, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Vagg, and Councillor Shelbourne Barrow. And against, oh, sorry, Councillor Power, what are you, sorry.
Is there any possibility if I could abstain at all?
Yeah, you can abstain, that's fine. Do you want me to,
I just feel
So you're abstaining from this vote?
Yes,
this
I just
particular
feel it's just a bit too personal, if you see what I mean.
Okay, yeah, Councillor Power has abstained. So we then have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe, who voted for.
Councillor Power, do you want me to record your abstention in the minutes?
Oh yes, if that's possible, please.
Yeah.
And then the final one, do we need to do that one, Maidstone Electrical?
No, because you've got a proposer, a proposer, a seconder, and a majority vote for Clifford T. Sheen. So that's as far as you need to go now.
Thank you. Can you tell us what the next steps will be now, Locum Clark?
Next step will be I will go back to the office and ask Muriel to email the 2 that didn't get it and phone the 1 that did and ask them when they can start to do the work.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Now moving on.
Councillor Vagg had her hand up then.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Vagg, I missed that.
I was just going to say, we've said we still don't know when they can start. So if we say to Clifford T. Sheen, you can have the job if you start soon, and they say, oh, we can't do it till next June, then obviously we're going to think again, I take it.
Don't worry, we'll make sure it gets done nice and properly.
Thank you for that. Moving on now to independent businesses. So councillors will be aware at our previous meeting, we had a resident who came forward and asked that we consider to approve, subject to council's approval, a statement and actions in support of independent businesses. And it was shared with you. It was also reshared today. Have councillors had chance to read it and have understood? Excellent. So in terms of any questions, if you've read it, do you have any questions you wish to make at this time? Or pose at this time, rather? No? So having considered it, can I therefore ask, if no one's posing any questions, if we approve this statement? So can I have a proposer, please, for this independent businesses statement, Councillor Ralph? And seconded by Councillor Smith. And if you are for supporting the statement shared, to then further undertake the actions that are enclosed. So for, I have Councillor Tudgay, Greening, Waters, Power, Smith, Ralph, Vagg, and Shelbourne Barry. So I believe that to be unanimous. So can I ask Locum Clark what the next steps will be, just for clarity purposes? Yes, Councillor Vag, are you still voting or do you wish to speak?
No, if I could say something, just to say, we talked about the things that's about going to our local MP and councillors. I think we should include a copy to the top to the Prime Minister and the Department of Trade as well.
Prime Minister and Department. So Locum Clark, thank you for that, Councillor. Should we vote on that again, or are you happy to note that? Locum Clark.
Well, I mean, I think that the proposal was to send it to local people, and then I think perhaps what you could do then is ask your MP to raise it with the Prime Minister rather than write to that person directly and the Department of Trade.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Power.
I think if you write it to David, who was our MP, he can put it forward in a Wednesday's Prime Minister's questions. I think that's the easier way of doing it. Instead of, I think you won't get much response if you just wrote it to Boris, in my opinion, because a bit too busy with a pandemic. So if you put it in Prime Minister's questions and give it to David, I think that's more beneficial way of doing it.
And the MP's full title, Councillor Power?
David Warburton.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Locum Clark?
Yeah.
Thank you. So if there's no other comments, moving on to policies. So we had two policies tonight we wish to consider. One was freedom of information policy, and the second policy is financial regulations. So having previously stated that you've read the policies, can I ask, are there any comments associated with freedom of information policy? No. Okay, can I therefore ask for a proposer, please, in support of the freedom of information policy? Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Smith, a seconder, Councillor Waters, and a for. If you're for supporting approval of the policy, I have Councillor Tudgay, Greening, Waters, Power, Smith, Ralph, Vag, and Shelbourne-Barry. So I believe that to be unanimous. Thank you for that. Can I ask that an e-signatory is added to it and loaded onto our website so people are aware, please, Locum Clark?
Yeah.
So the second document for us to consider to approve or to adopt tonight is the financial regulations. So this has been shared with Council. Can I ask, because it's a large document, so focus questions, please. Are there any questions you wish to pose for the Locum Clark to respond at this time? No, I'm seeing no one putting their hands up. I will wait a moment to give you a chance to think. Okay, so can I have a proposer, please, for the financial regulations? Councillor Tudgay, can I have Councillor Waters? Are you okay? All right, it's all right. You put your hand over your face. I was a bit worried about you. So we have, proposer Councillor Tudgay. Can I have a seconder, please, for the financial regulations? Councillor Smith. And can I have for? So if you're for approval and adoption of the financial regulations, Councillor Tudgay, Greening, Waters, Power, Smith, Ralph, Vag, and Shelbourne-Barry. So I believe that to be unanimous, Locum Clark.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you tell us what the next steps will be for that document, please?
Well, that will be uploaded onto the website, the same as the Freedom of Information one, and we will begin using it as our financial Bible henceforth.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So closing that item down, we're moving to Open Spaces report, and this is to note the Open Spaces report from the Work and Maintenance Supervisor. So this has been shared with Council. Does anyone have any comments you wish to make at this time or any questions? Councillor Tudgay.
I'm quite concerned about the work around the Mugger subsidence. This is a job that really ought to be done as soon as possible. I know there was some concern about the cost. I think the cost is just shy of £5,000. With the, having looked at the budget updates, I would have thought that we were within budget, and I would like to see authorisation given for this work to be done as soon as possible.
Thank you. Having looked at the budget that we've received in October, I would support that assessment as well. Are there any other questions associated with the report? No? So from my perspective, in terms of where we are in the year, now we have clarity on our budget and where we are with our budget, it would be useful to understand as part of the maintenance programme of work, what we can actually do within this financial year. So as Councillor Tuggley rightly said about the mugger, but there may well be other work streams that we can undertake because we have the financial capability at this time. So we could go out for quotes to actually complete that work. So Locum Clark.
Yeah, so just to let you know, I've had on the day that Steve very kindly took me for a grand tour of your lovely parish. After that we had quite a long conversation about budgets and ways forward, and he'd actually got quotes for quite a lot of the work. We'll need to get other quotes to, you know, because obviously you need 3 quotes for the work of that sort of size, but it is underway. And now that we've, as you rightly say, so now we've got the AGAR done, and we're a bit more secure in our feelings about that. Now is the time to start picking off some of these jobs, because there's some work to be done on the flood lighting down there as well, which we may not be able to afford in this financial year, but we should be able to, you know, to at least get the quotes done. But he needs some wood chippings as well to go down at the Kale Park play area. So there are lots of things on the go, and we'll prioritise them. And as you say, the subsidence at the mugger is the most important thing to get done at the moment.
Thank you. So what I've heard from that, if I may summarise, is that the Locum Clark, working with the maintenance supervisor, is undertaking to capture quotes against all the main pieces of work, with particularly prioritising the mugger. And those quotes will then, are they quotes or tenders? Because they're some of them will be below 5, won't they?
It's tenders if it's £25,000, £25,000 or more. If it's under 25,000, it's quotes.
Thank you for clarifying. That's great. So those tenders will quotes, sorry, I even did it twice. I apologise. Those quotes will come back to council, I hope, in as soon as possible in January preferred, so we can make a decision on that. Do we need to do anything to close mugger, or is it safe to use?
I know it's completely safe to use. I mean, it's quite obvious when you look at it that the reason that some of it is sinking is because it's where the posts are fitted down into the concrete, and it's quite obvious that it's the concrete that's surrounding the post that it's probably just settled a little bit, and I suspect it just needs a little bit of TLC. But yeah, it's completely safe. I mean, it's not going to fall over anytime soon.
Thank you. So for those items that can come back to council in January within our financial budget for this year, we'd like to see them in January, then we can make a decision around our first meeting. So thank you for that. Any other comments? Thank you, Councillor Tuggley and Locum Clark. No? Moving on then. So next, we have the meeting dates for 21. This includes Q4 of the financial year 2021, and it includes the rest of the year, because it's calendar year for 21, but not taking us to the financial year. I would prefer going forward, Locum Clark, for us to have financial year dates, so it runs from April through to March, end of March the following year, because I find it odd to look at part years.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's interesting really, because your council year begins in May, your financial year begins in April, your calendar year begins in January. What we could do is we could do January to the following March. We could have the whole of the actual year and the following 3 months, so you've captured the financial year as well if you wanted to.
I think that's really important that we can capture the financial year for us, because it makes it better to understand when we're looking at our finances, I believe. Anyone else have a view on that comment I've just made? Councillor Tuggley?
I very much like the idea of having an 18-month one running through to the end of the following financial year. I certainly would favour that.
Thank you. Do we need any other questions related or comments from council?
Did you want 15 months or 18 months?
That's 15, isn't it? Do you mean 15, Councillor Tudgay, or because that would take us 12 plus 3? Okay.
12 plus 3 would be fine. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Greening, is it at all possible you could put a light on, because you're slowly disappearing into the dark, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's just I will miss you putting your hand up if you wish to speak. Okay, thank you for that. So do you wish us to formally adopt that proposal, Locum Clerk, or just note?
No, that's fine. I've just made a note of that for an action point for us going forward.
Okay, so this year we this particular proposal here around the dates for our meetings, you will note that full council meetings, majority of them are at the end of the month going forward for Q4, which for me is January to the end of March. And therefore, so we have one full council a month and one planning a month. And then sat underneath it, we'll have finance and the personnel committees. And in addition, we'll have other working groups. Have you all noticed that when looking at the dates? Excellent. So this is the new format we will be looking to implement as we move forward. So one full council and then the support meeting sat underneath to inform full council on a monthly basis. So you will also note that the stakeholder group, which is not a public group, will go on to a new working group timetable alongside WEEP and other non-committee meetings. So council is fully aware of all the dates, and you will share today the membership for those as well. So in terms of this document, are there any comments you wish to make? Okay, so this is to confirm the schedule for meetings for 21. If there's no comments, you would have noted there's additional dates and so forth in there. And the fact that we will have a working group table as well. And in addition, you would have noticed that I've put in, because of stakeholder engagement, quarterly engagement events or meetings as we move forward. And I like to think that we link up with SSDC and Wincanton for the future and any other work streams that we are leading on as a council to ensure that we engage with our public on those. So if there are no other comments, Locum Clerk, how would you like to proceed with the dates of the meetings?
Well, just to say that obviously you're going to meet every month for full council, but it's fine if there is no planning to cancel the planning meeting. Equally, if there's no finance or open spaces or personnel stuff to talk about, it's fine to cancel those or to reschedule them. The idea of this is just to give everybody an idea of how often these different committees should be meeting, and so that you can sort of set your diaries really. So if somebody wanted to propose approving these and have a seconder and a vote on it, that would be fantastic.
So this is the dates of the meeting that incorporate the changes, which include the stakeholder group meeting and the annual meeting. Has everyone seen that document and are happy to propose that? So can I have a proposer, please, for the schedule? Councillor Ralph, and a seconder, please, Councillor Smith, and a vote for, if you're for this revised schedule. So that's Councillor Power, Tudgay, Greening, Waters, Smith, Ralph, Vag, and Shelbourne-Barry. And in due course, you'll get the working group one. So if you're a member of a working group that hasn't been noted on this, can you please make the Locum Clerk aware of dates for the new financial year, Q4 in the new financial year? Thank you for that. Right, so Councillor Tudgay, we now have Save Climate Initiative, and we've moved planning we proposed to move planning down the agenda to enable you to rejoin. So just so you're aware, rather than, you tried hard, didn't you? But okay, so the next item is Save the Climate initiative, and then we'll move to planning. So councillors, have you reviewed the document that was shared from Somerset Action in Villages for the Environment and Climate? I'm seeing lots of nods. So what this is looking to do is it's inviting Wincanton Town Council to support an application under the funding for this, under the Eco Centre funding. Sorry, I've just maybe said the wrong one. Sorry, the county's Climate Emergency Community Fund, to have a service which will actually incorporate our town, but it's actually a mobile service, but it brings roadshows to the area around sustainable living, advice, practical information, working with local people and groups to ensure guidance and information is available throughout the year. So this is asking if we will support. So does anyone have any questions above what's in this document? Because to be honest, I'm not sure I could answer it, but I will give it a good go. No? So can I then say, this is if Wincanton Town Council would support the initiative to go in under the community fund. So do we have a proposer that supports our town council being part of this? Councillor Vagg, a seconder, please. Councillor Tudgay, and a vote from council if you're for supporting us joining this initiative. So I have, just so I'm clear, Councillor Power, are you going to vote, or have you? You don't have to. It doesn't matter what you vote. I just thought you zoned out for a moment.
Sorry, I was trying to read the document. I was trying to go through it just to make sure I read everything correctly. That was all.
That's
sorry.
okay. No, you don't have to apologise. You don't have to apologise. I'm going to start in a different place to give you time to think whether you wish to vote for. So voting for is to support Wincanton Town Council being part of it. So I have Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow, Councillor Vagg, Councillor Ralph, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Greening, Councillor Waters, Councillor Smith, and Councillor Power.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. So that's unanimous. Councillor Locum Clark, can you confirm what the next steps will be, please?
It's just a question of me communicating your support as a council for the scheme, and then your name will be put on their application for the grants from the county council, to give it a bit more and yeah, hopefully we'll see the project come to fruition later on in the year.
What I would like to see is, if it is approved, for them to come to us and present what we as a council would receive from supporting it, our town and our community. So if you could acknowledge that as well, I'd be grateful.
Yeah, I can arrange that.
So moving into planning, Councillor Tudgay. So can I invite you to cover planning tonight?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, we just have one planning application tonight, and that is 20/03028/S73A. And this is an application to vary condition 2, which are approved plans, of a planning approval 18/03272/4 to allow a minor rearrangement of the layout, including plot orientation, and the garage to plot 3, land off Ordnance Survey 3969, which is part of Devonish Lane, Bayford, Wincanton. And this is a plot of land that is, part of it's in our parish and part of it is not. And I am led to believe that this actual bungalow lies outside of our boundary, but we have been asked to make comments. The last time I looked, there were no comments online. It is a very minor realignment of the garage and the actual plot, and I can't really see a problem with it myself.
Okay.
And I would recommend approval.
Thank you. Thank you. Any comments from council? No? So Councillor Tudgay is proposing we approve. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Tudgay, a seconder, Councillor Power, and a vote if you're in support or for the proposal. So that is Councillor Power, Tudgay, Greening, Waters, Smith, Ralph, Vag and Shelbourne Barrow. Thank you for that. The other comments?
And there is just one decision to note, Chair, and that was the decision taken by South Somerset District Council and the County Council, Somerset County Council. And this is the infill of disused railway cutting with inert waste at a former railway cutting land off Errington Lane, Wincanton, and permission for that has been granted.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's it. That's it on planning.
Yes, thank you. Is there anything else, Locum Clerk, that because it normally says if we've got anything else to note, but I'm presuming there's nothing from South Somerset. Thank you. So moving on then, at 2016, we moved to correspondence. Is there any correspondence we need to draw council's attention to, Locum Clerk?
Yeah, yes, there is. And it's all relating to the awards. So you've had email correspondence from the fire cadets to say how pleased they are to receive an award, and they look forward to the ceremony as and when it can take place. So you've had one email from their Children and Young People's Officer and one from Matt Coombs, the lead local cadet instructor. You've had a thank you from Annette at the Balsam Centre for her award, and also from Lee. So that's just some nice positive news.
Thank you. That's lovely to hear. And we can't wait, I think, as a council to present those awards, and the ones that haven't notified us, the broader awards that we noted around long service and the town, supporting the town. So thank you for that. So if there's no other correspondence, I'd like to move to items for the agenda for next time. So I have some items. While you're thinking, I'll just put those forward. So I'd like to discuss section 106s because we have a number of section 106s, which is money that's been allocated as part of developments associated with planning to the town, and they run for a period, I believe, of 5 years, and we need to access that money before the time frame is out. Otherwise we then lose access to that money. So what I'd like to do is bring a paper to council in January to look at what is available, what's close to actually coming to an end, so we don't lose that money for our community, because it's all been captured against certain areas of work within the town. So a paper around 106 and the actions we need to take to move that forward. In addition, I'm expecting there will be minutes from potentially the finance and governance meetings that happen in December and January. In addition, the policies that are going to the finance committee, I'm envisaging those because we didn't agree them at council. We asked that they go through the normal governance and or personnel route. So I would envisage those coming back to council in January. In addition as well, the governance meeting that takes place, working group in December, we are looking to review the standing orders for the council, and I would hope that they are in a position to come back to council in January, alongside confirming the budget lines for our new precept and budget going forward. So we've got clarity on that. That will come through as part of our governance meeting in December. And finally, within the meeting dates for 2021, we also are looking to put in a locum clerk. We discussed this today. Would you like to explain the decision that we came to around precept and finance, please?
Oh yeah, okay. So I had an email today from the district council telling me that the precept request needs to be with the district council by the 29th of January. Of course, under normal circumstances, we would have started doing precept activities and budget setting activities a long time before now. But as Sue's just said, that process will be started at the governance meeting on the 16th of December. And then we were thinking that we would have an extra finance committee meeting on the 11th of January, because if we leave a decision on the budget till the 18th of January. It's cutting it really close to the deadline, and I don't want to be, it already feels quite rushed. I don't want it to be any more rushed than it is. So if we had an extra finance committee meeting that was to focus purely on the precept on the 11th of January, as per Councillor Tudgay's suggestion, I think that would just give us a little bit of wriggle room. So if there were any changes or problems, we would at least then be able to come back to the 18th of January to finalise anything that needed ironing out. So I don't know how you feel about that.
Councillors, just so you're aware, that was initially in the on the document that we agreed, it was the 18th. We're now proposing the finance meeting will move to the 11th, and it will incorporate precept within it. So that will be coming, the precept will happen in January, but come to the full council once it's been through the normal process. Councillor Tudgay.
Can I suggest that we incorporate it into what is on the calendar as the planning committee? Any planning we have should be quite easy to deal with, rather than start, let's say at 6 p.m. If we started at 7 and incorporated it into the planning committee, would that be possible, do you think?
It would need to be 2 separate meetings because they're 2 separate committees. But what you could do is you could say, if you wanted to start the finance committee meeting at 7, then when you advertise the planning committee meeting, you could say to follow on from the finance committee meeting.
That would be fine.
I suspect, yeah, but they would have to be 2 discrete separate meetings.
That's fine. I would prefer to do it that way than starting at 6 p.m, which I think is a little bit too early and makes it a long evening. It's just my personal view.
Okay, and therefore the finance meeting will continue on the 18th. Because if we've got any further questions that come out of the 11th precept, it will go through finance and then go to full council on the 25th. Does that seem reasonable? Going forward, we've had a really difficult year this year for a multitude of different reasons, but not having clarity on the AGAR has slowed our ability to set in motion meetings that we would normally have had. And we're quite aware of that as a council, but we do need to, going forward, have a really clear structure on what happens when and when it happens to meet our requirements. So it's just because it's been a challenge this year to make sure we're discussing the right figures at the right time has slowed us down, but we will be in a better position going forward for 21-22. So just to reassure council and residents that may well be listening to this. Any other thoughts, ideas that anyone wishes to put forward at this time? I would also hope to celebrate the festive boxes and what we've achieved in January, because we've had so many people come forward in terms of being identified, but also I would hope to be able to clarify, not by name, but numbers of people that have been nominated due to, for various reasons, for a festive box. So that's part of our work, I believe, to support our community. Any other comments? And I must just say that although it's not agenda items to the next meeting, our Christmas tree looks gorgeous lit up, but that's a personal comment. So is there anything else anyone would like to add at this time? If not, no? Yes, Councillor Ralph.
I'd just like to say thank you to all of you. I didn't know any of you really when I became a councillor in June. I knew of some of you, and it's been a real pleasure to get to know you better, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas when it comes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ralph. Councillor Power?
I'd like to say the same, but I'm really sorry, but my iPad is on 1%.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Power.
Sorry.
For that alert. Right, so 2025, unless anyone has any further comments or items for the agenda for next time, I'm closing the meeting. I wish you, residents that are listening, I wish you a Merry Christmas or a Happy Christmas and a restful New Year. And we look forward to seeing you in January. For councillors that are part of our meeting structure, I look forward to seeing you in other meetings throughout December. So thank you very much. And I'd like for the locum clerk now to end the meeting.